I confessed to cheating in a drunken moment. He ruined my life overnight. I have always known that drinking too much could drive someone into destroying their life, but I never thought it would be me. Well, actually it wasn't just drinking that destroyed my life, but this is a long and interesting story. Follow me, guys. I am Wendy, 31 years old. I have been married for 4 years with the one I thought was the love of my life, Daniel. Daniel is the same age as me, and I met him when we were both waiting to do a work interview. Strange, isn't it? We were both trying to work at the same place. I got to work there anyway, and he found another job. So I work as a financial advisor, and he is the director of a bank. Anyway, short story long, he looked so flirty and smart, started flirting with me, and I liked it. It made me feel hot and sexy and also beautiful. We exchanged phone numbers, and after the interview we had a coffee together. Dates after dates, we fell in love and decided to get married. We thought it was true love. Life at the beginning was great. I loved going to bed with him and waking up together. He made me feel like I was the most wonderful girl in the world, or more like I was the only girl in the world. I felt so lucky to have him in my life. Life was beautiful. We had a house, his house actually. We had good jobs and good incomes, and the most important thing of them all, we had each other and we had love. Still, after getting married, he used to take me on romantic dates and used to buy me my favorite roses, the red ones. So yeah, I felt completed. We also were planning to have a baby. Haven't tried yet, but we want a baby. We wanted to build a family. We both loved kids, and we wanted to have a boy and a girl in the future. I wanted my first baby to be a girl, but it would not matter much actually, even if it was a boy. It was enough for me to have a healthy baby. But we would not have any baby because my life was about to get destroyed. I loved my husband very much, and I never thought I would be able to cheat on him with another man. Here I will begin to tell you the real story of my life's destruction, and I will ask everyone to be gentle with me and not judge me very much. I know and I'm sure that I will be judged, but please just try to understand me a little, because as a human being, I can make mistakes. My mistake is the one I will never be able to forgive myself for. What happened is that I am a type that really likes to go out with friends, and my husband didn't like it. He would always fight with me about that. Sometimes I used to ask him if he wanted to come with me, but sometimes I wanted to go out alone only with my friends. We have been having this problem for a long time. This has begun to grow as a problem because my husband started to give more attention to his work than to me. It all began when he got a promotion as a director of the bank, so he had to work more and more, and he was never home. Even when he was most of the time working on his laptop. It was very difficult for me, because we used to spend most of the time together, and now I was always alone. I started to go out more often with my friends, and I started drinking a little more than usual. I thought that a little alcohol would not hurt anyone. So my husband Daniel started coming home and not finding me there. It made him go mad, and we started fighting more and more. I always told him that I needed more attention and support because he had been leaving me alone all the time, and we had lost our passion. You see, guys, spending more and more time working, he didn't have time for me, and sex became rare. I will confess something here. I love sex, and I am not one of those women who is okay with not having sex because my husband is busy. I think passion and sex are the most important things in a relationship, so we were having sex normally like before, because even when he came to bed and I went near him or started kissing him, he used to tell me that he was tired and could not make it. I was left there feeling like I was refused, and it made me feel so bad. So yeah, one of those nights out where I and my girls were in a club celebrating our friendship and nothing more, there was this guy named James. He was amazing and had this hot body I couldn't resist. I remember that night I was wearing a hot black dress that would make me look really hot and my body amazing. He came near me with a drink in his hands and handed it to me, not even asking. He just told me, "This is for you." I smiled and got the drink. Then we started talking a little actually because the music was very loud. I only understood that his name was James. We started dancing together and I was feeling his body touching mine. His intimate parts on me, guys, that made me really horny. Well, I am sorry because you will be judging me, but I need to be honest while telling this story because I am done lying or being dishonest. James took my breath away. While we were dancing, he kissed my neck and I moved a little away from him. To be honest, I didn't want to move. I did want to let him kiss me. I wanted to feel his body on mine, even if it was wrong. I have missed having sex like me and my husband used to, because we had a great passion. It was really one of the greatest parts of our relationship. Anyway, when James saw I moved away from him, he stopped, but he was still flirting with me, and we did not stop dancing. We danced together for most of the night, and I enjoyed it so much. That was a great night. He was there with his friends, but he stayed with me most of the time. It was his presence, the good music, and the vibe in general that made this night such an amazing one. At the end of it, he asked for my phone number, and I didn't think twice before writing it in his phone. While I was going home, I got a message from him telling me that this was one of the most wonderful nights of his life, and he felt this connection with me. Well, I thought I felt something too, but maybe it was just a physical need. I loved when he touched my body. I read his message, and suddenly I smiled. I liked him. He invited me for a coffee the next morning, and I said yes. I knew I was married, but I really wanted to meet him. It felt strange, like I knew I was making a mistake. But I could not stop doing it. It felt good, even if it was a mistake. So that night I went home, and my husband was waiting for me on the sofa while watching TV. As soon as I got in, he started criticizing me and asking where I had been all night. He was very angry with me. He told me that he was working hard for our family while I was out there doing who knows what and enjoying life. So he was assuming I was cheating on him, and he seemed to be very jealous. I told him that I was out with my friends and having fun. I didn't do anything wrong because having fun is not wrong, and enjoying life is not wrong. I left him there and I went to have a shower and got ready for bed. I slept well, thinking the next morning I was going to meet James. The next morning the game was fast and I woke up happy and started to get ready while singing. My husband was looking at me in a strange way while he was also getting ready for work, and he asked why I was so happy. I told him, "What? I am not allowed to be happy? Does my happiness make you sad or angry now?" He didn't say anything back. He just continued to get ready and went out before me. I got ready and all beautiful, and I went straight to the bar where I was going to meet James. He was already there waiting for me to arrive. He had also ordered coffee and something sweet to eat for the morning. It felt like we knew each other for our whole lives. I said hello, and he gave me a kiss on my cheeks. We started talking about our lives. He told me that he worked as an IT engineer and he loved his job. He was also married, and the news was that he was soon going to be a daddy. In that moment, I felt so guilty, but I wanted to go on with what we had started. He also told me that he was feeling guilty, but he liked me very much, and he felt something about me. I didn't know if it was true or not. Anyway, we talked a lot about our lives, and we decided that no matter what, we were going to see each other again. After that coffee date, I went to work. That day I could not stop thinking of him, but also about his baby who would come soon. I could not stop feeling guilty. I could not work. However, the day went by and I went straight home. We had been chatting almost the whole day, and we talked about everything. He was very kind and sweet. When I went home, he wrote to me that he would like to see me that night. Jay knew my husband would be working late that night. He had told me so, and I invited him over for a drink. It wasn't just a drink. We did everything. And it was wow. There are no words to express how I felt. He came there and I offered him a drink, but he came near me and started kissing my neck, my cheeks, and then my lips. He started touching my body, and he was going to drive me crazy. It felt amazing, and I didn't want him to stop. I took him by his hand and showed him to the bedroom. The fact that we were going to do it in the bed, I had done it with my husband so many times, grew the adrenaline in me. We had sex 2 times that night, and the 2 times were amazing. James had this strong body and felt like he was a sex professional. We spent 2 or 3 hours together, but it felt like 2 minutes. I wish we could stay more, but my husband could come at any moment, so he went away. I was trying to be careful and erase every sign that could make my husband doubt anything. Not long after James left, Daniel came home. He looked very tired, and he started telling me about how tiring his job had been lately. I felt sorry for him, and I told him so. But it didn't matter how tired he was. He was feeling like having sex that night, and I refused him. I didn't want to do it anymore. With James, that was enough for that day. My husband didn't say anything, but he didn't seem happy. After some minutes, he exploded and told me, "How come you are saying no? It has been some days, and you always say yes." I told him that I wanted him to feel like I felt every time he said no to me. So we closed the night like that. Before sleeping, James sent me a message telling me he had the greatest time with me, and he put a smile on my face that way. We continued meeting each other once every 2 or 3 days. Every time was like the first time. I enjoyed his presence a lot, and we had amazing sex together. I don't think that it was just sex that kept us together. We also had great communication, but we loved sex more. We did it in the car sometimes, in a hotel, but mostly I invited him to our apartment when my husband was not home. It was a big risk, but the risk I was taking was worth it, and it made the pleasure bigger and greater. We did it in every place of our home, but generally in the bed, I had sex with my husband. My husband and I were not having sex often. It happened very rarely. Even when it happened, I did it while thinking of James. I thought it was James there with me, not my husband. So sex became good even with my husband just because I was thinking about James. Anyway, I did more often with James than with my husband Daniel. I didn't know that my husband was having doubts about me, but he had been having doubts since the beginning. I would find out later. During my affair with James, Daniel had not been showing any signs of jealousy. He never asked me questions that showed his doubts. And I continued meeting James, calmly thinking he didn't know anything, thinking that he would never find out about my affair, while James also told me that his wife had not been showing jealousy or anything. Later on, my husband told me that he had this company anniversary, and they were going to throw a party, so he wanted me to go with him. He didn't leave any choices. Actually, he just told me I had to go with him because everyone was going with their partners. So we both went shopping like we were a happy couple and bought clothes for that night. I bought a long red dress that made me look great. Even my husband was amazed when I tried it on, and he told me that I looked beautiful. We went there together and the place was amazing, the decor and everything. This was a dinner, but also there was a DJ and we could dance. I loved it so much there, and I was very happy to be there until I saw someone. Guess what happened? I was dancing with my husband and enjoying everything. To be honest, dancing with him and looking him in the eyes reminded me of our love. I felt very sorry about what I did. I just wished that things were like before. But time could not be turned back. It didn't work like that. I was staring at him and wishing we didn't get lost on the way. But I did. I got lost the night I met James. Then I was thinking that I was crazy while I was watching James sitting in front of me. I really thought I was crazy. It could not be real. But there he was with his wife and a group of people. He was smiling and holding his wife's hand while talking with her. Strange. He looked so in love with her while he had been telling me that things between them had not been so good, and that he was staying with her just because of her pregnancy. He also told me that he was planning to get divorced after she gave birth because he could not stand her anymore. I thought that I shouldn't be fast to judge him because here I was dancing with my husband, while it was very true that we had been having problems with each other, actually big problems. But I actually felt shocked while I saw him there. So after a while, I asked my husband about his wife, and stared at me for a second and told me that she worked with him. He also told me that she was pregnant, and he said, "Look, he is James, her husband, and an old friend of mine." He told me that he knew James since he was a child and they grew up together, and I was more shocked. Oh my God, I had cheated on my husband with an old friend of his? And I just found out. Honestly, he looked strange while he was speaking about Daniel. I started to feel very anxious. What if he knew something? I just hoped he didn't. Later during the night, he asked me to go with him and say hi to both of them. He grabbed my hand and led our way to their table. He introduced them to James and his wife, and I was feeling like the worst person in the world while looking at his pregnant wife and my loving husband. Anyway, I could notice in his eyes that something was wrong. While I was thinking, he asked James's wife to dance, and he told me I could dance with James. I told him that I was okay, but he insisted that I had to dance with James. So I did. I danced with James, but I didn't say a word while we were dancing, and neither did he. I didn't want my husband to suspect something, so I just danced, and I was feeling very bad. I was feeling like my husband knew something. I was so frightened. The night went by like that, and we went home. It started nice, but it turned out to be a nightmare, and when we turned back home, I was full of doubts and questions in my head. No matter how scared I was, the next day I was going to leave work early, and I had invited James over to our apartment. He came, and I first decided to talk to him. I asked him about my husband, why he had not told me anything about them being friends. Because I was sure that James knew he had been to our apartment many times, so he had seen the pictures that were all over our house. So why did he hide that fact from me? And he had a very reasonable reason, but still he had no right to hide that from me. He told me that he didn't say anything because he was afraid that I would go away from him, and he didn't want that. I told him he had no right to do that. I was really mad with him, but as soon as he came near me and gave me a kiss, I started kissing him also, and we couldn't stop. This time he led my way to his childhood friend's bedroom, and we had sex in our bed. It was crazy, the best sex I would ever have. He touched my body in a way that my husband never could, and it was like he activated every nerve on my body. He drove to the sky and back in this real world. Nothing compared to sex and the pleasure he gave to me. I am sorry, guys, because I know you will hate what I am saying, but it is what it is. Yes, it is true, he was Daniel's friend, but I liked how I felt with him. There was no way I could stop myself from doing this. After a while in bed, I told him that he looked very happy with his wife. He looked so in love with her. And so I asked him if it was true that he was in love with her, but he told me no, he was just acting because he had to. In front of the people, he had to do that, and besides, she was pregnant with his baby. After talking a little, we had sex again. We enjoyed each other's presence, and then he went home. My husband came home earlier than usual. He told me he had booked us a table in a restaurant, so we were going there. He told me that it wasn't anything fancy, but he was doing that for us and because he had not been giving me the attention that I deserved. So we got ready and we headed to the restaurant. He looked happy and he looked like he was really trying to work things out with me. I hoped we could. Maybe we could, and he would never find out about my affair with his childhood friend James. We went there, and he started reminding me about the old times when we used to date, and the time when we fell in love. We had so many memories together. He also reminded me about the first time when he saw me. We were laughing, and he told me that when he saw me, he didn't want to do the work interview anymore. He just wanted to have me. He said that for him, it wasn't anything fancy like at first sight, but for me, it wasn't. I did like him a lot, but I fell in love with him later on. So it came into my mind what made me fall in love with him in the first place. He was very kind and a gentleman. He would do anything to make me happy. He planned wonderful and romantic dates, and he was always there when I needed him. Tea hat night, he made me drunk a lot. I thought he too was drinking, but he wasn't. I drank and drank until I wasn't conscious anymore. I started talking nonsense, and the next day I could not remember anything about last night. My husband was very serious, but he told me that he had planned a dinner that same night with my parents and his parents. He told me he wanted to make our parents happy, so he told me to get ready about that night, and I did. I was thinking that our marriage was finally taking the right turn. I looked into my husband's eyes, and I was thinking that I still loved him, and I was really hoping that he would never find out about my affair. Maybe things would really get better. That's what I thought in that moment because I didn't know that he was going to destroy my life overnight. That night we went to the restaurant and everyone was there. What made me get shocked was that there was also James and his wife, not just our parents, so he surely had found out about us. Silly me. A night before I had told my husband everything about my affair with James. So I confessed to cheating in a drunken moment. He ruined my life overnight. It felt awkward, but I could not escape. We went there, and as soon as we ordered the food, my husband stood up and started speaking. He said that maybe not all of us knew the reason why we were there, but 2 of us knew it for sure. He said the 2 people that knew exactly why we all were there that night were me and James. You see, guys, He said that he had been suspecting my fidelity for a long time, but he didn't want to believe it. He said also that he trusted me with his life, and he never thought that I was going to cheat on him and cheat on him with his childhood friend James. My world was falling apart, and I thought I was going to die in that same moment. But he didn't stop there. He told everyone how he got me drunk the night before, and I confessed that I had cheated on him with his James. Can you imagine I confessed? I told him everything. He even knew that we were having sex in our bed. He looked so hurt, but he was now taking his revenge and humiliating me in front of everyone. My parents wouldn't forgive me about that, and I could see the hate in his parents' eyes. James's wife was crying, and I felt so sorry for her. What I had done was unforgivable. Daniel said that after I confessed, he got in touch with James's wife, and it was not difficult since they both worked together. James's wife got his phone and read all our messages and sent screenshots of them to Daniel. They were even nasty guys. We talked about what we would do when we met, and we talked a lot about sex, about how we felt and what we liked. My husband got his phone out of his pocket and started reading those messages out loud. It was so humiliating. Everyone was looking at us, and I was shaking. I wanted to die or disappear while our parents were hearing all those naughty words written from me and James. I could not do that. I told him to stop, but he said, "No, darling, no, let me go on because what you have said has left me speechless." And he continued reading. My mom started crying, and also James's wife was already crying. It was awkward, and I could not stop him. James's face was all red, and he was standing there like frozen, staring at each one of the people at the table. Finally, he said that I had been sleeping with James in our bed, and that was the most humiliating part for him. Finally, he told me that he had another surprise for me the next morning because all this wasn't enough to call my life ruined. And also, he said that I had to go out of his apartment that same night. I looked into my parents' house, hoping that they would take me in, but they said, "No, don't you even think we didn't raise you like that?" Also, James's wife told him that he had to move out and that she would never forgive what we had done. Nothing could change anymore. We had hurt so many people just for a little pleasure. And here we were without a solution and without a place to go. The next day I went to work just to find out that I had been fired. The reason was that I was cheating on my husband, and the company policy accepted only loyal people. The excuse was that they could never rely on me. So I found out that my husband had been there and talked to my boss. He was a man with a lot of influence, and he convinced her to fire me. While I was leaving, he came into the office and gave a kiss to my boss on the cheek, and it was clear that there was something between us, like they were flirting. My husband told me that this was his revenge and no one could play him out like I did. So this is my story, guys. I am jobless and homeless, living in a small hotel room and wishing I had never done the things that I did. When I got to the hotel room where I had sent all my things, I tried calling my mother because I was devastated, but she didn't pick up. So yeah, I was spending my last money in that hotel room, and I didn't have much money saved. It also was not going to be easy to find a job in that condition. Emotionally destroyed. So here I am writing here and telling everyone to please be gentle and help me with any advice. Thank you everyone for reading my story. Never do the things I did. Wendy. Update. Hello guys, it's me, Wendy again. After reading your comments, I thought I had to come back for a short update of my story, the last one. Life is not going great, guys. I am going through a lot. Problems with money, problems with finding a home, because you see, when you don't have enough money, no one is going to rent you a house, not even a room. I'm barely paying for this room, and I'm so afraid that I will be left on the road alone soon if I don't find another job. I am also asking for a loan from my best friend to get a house while I am looking for a job, and I hope I will find one. This afternoon I got an interview. Wish me luck, please. So, yeah, things are very hard. My husband's revenge was destructive. I don't blame him actually because what I did was cruel. James was more cruel, cheating on his pregnant wife. Regarding James, I have not heard from him anymore. He called me the next night actually and told me he wanted to meet me. But I said I couldn't see him anymore. It was still wrong. I truly regret what I did. I did not have any feelings towards him, and maybe it was all about sex. Back in time, I thought there was something special between us. But when I experienced that night, the hurt in my husband's eyes, the tears in my mom's eyes, and James's wife, I knew it was not love, because love wouldn't cause so much hurt. And because at that moment I felt like I never wanted to see him again and like I hated him and myself. But yeah, I am still devastated, and I'm still trying to make my parents forgive me. My life is a big mess, and I am hoping it will get better, and I will forgive myself for what I have done. Thank you guys for reading my last update. Much love, Wendy.